packs. Now, each of these packs are still your standard 15 card packs. You're guaranteed a foil in every pack, which is nice. And then obviously you have your standard rare 3 mythic breakdown. Everything like that is the same, except you're guaranteed a foil in every pack, and the distribution of packs in the boxes is only 24 as opposed to 36. In terms of whether this is a product that's going to be worth it for you to buy, first of all, it depends what you're going to be doing with it. If you're going to draft with a product like this, that does add additional value. So we will talk about whether that's whether the set overall looks like it would be fun to draft. But let's do the breakdown first of all. The card set contains 15 mythic rares, 53 regular rares, 80 uncommons, and 101 commons overall in the entire set. Now, I have gone through the entire set. There is a companion video for this video where I have gone through the entire spoiler and evaluated the cards for this purpose as well. So if you want to know every individual card and what breaks down into what category, you can check out that video. Basically how it breaks down is, of the 15 mythics, there's 2 categories. Basically you have your acceptable and unacceptable, or good and junk, whatever terms you want to use. So we will go with acceptable and unacceptable. And if you want to know what acceptable is, again, check out the companion piece. So in the mythic category, you have 14 out of the 15 cards are acceptable, meaning when you crack it open, you're going to look at the mythic and you will be satisfied with the card most likely. There's only one card that doesn't fall into that category. That is Channel. Channel, in my opinion, should not have been made a mythic in this set. It easily could have been put at rare. They're going to try and say that Channel is made mythic because they don't want the Channel Fireball combo coming up too frequently. Now, Fireballs are going to be drafted as a high pick anyways in a format like this. But even if Channel was just a rare, you'd see maybe 2 per box at most. And in that situation, what are you looking at? Two in an entire 8-man pod? Like, it's not out of control and would make it far more interesting. But instead they made Channel a mythic rare, and it turns into the wah rare. When you get it, you're going to feel gut punched because Channel is going to be like the 50-cent $1.50 mythic. I mean, the foil from the Vault version of this with the double foiling that makes this artwork look absolutely gorgeous, last time I checked, was only like a $4 card. So this being worth anything more than like the $1.50 base minimum for a mythic would surprise the hell out of me. All the other mythics in the set, though, fall into the acceptable category where you're not going to feel like you got totally cheesed. I mean, in this situation, a lot of the time you're not going to crack as much money as you have spent because the price of these packs are $10 American or $15 Canadian. That's generally the going price around here is $15, and I do use Canadian pricing with everything that I do because that just makes sense for me since that's my area. So, basically, 14 out of the 15 mythics break down into the acceptable category, which is great. You end up with 93% acceptable mythics. Now, you're only going to get about 2 mythics a box on average. In terms of rares, 30 out of the 53 rares. So 57% of the rares are actually acceptable rares. They do have some big gut bucket dick punch rares where you're going to be really pleased with the value you get. And I mean, obviously in the mythics as well, since I didn't cover it, Mana Drain is the whole poster child for the set, right? You want to be cracking Mana Drains or foil Mana Drains. That's what's going to feed that lottery you real need. Nothing else in the set is near the level of Mana Drain. Mana Drain is head and shoulders above every single card in this set. So the rares do have some nice gut bucket dick punch cards. You got your Horizon Canopies, your Cryptic Commands. So there will be some times where you get very pleasing rares. The acceptable rare category is 57%. Now what you need to bear in mind when I give you these percentages as well is track printing exists. If you haven't seen my video about the secret rarities that Wizards uses to make sure that your boxes don't get too many good rares in them, you're going to want to check that out, because even though the percentage is 57% of the rares are acceptable, they will have used track printing to ensure some rares show up more frequently than others. So you will more than likely crack less Horizon Canopies than other rares, because Wizards does use a track printing which ensures that certain rares will show up more frequently. So you should probably adjust these percentages downwards. It probably makes the rare percentage, and this is just a guess because I don't have any specific information about Wizards' current tracks, so I don't know what they're doing currently, but it could be something more like a 50-50% chance with the rares. Now when we move into the uncommons and the commons, it gets ugly. Out of the 80 uncommons in the set, only 15 are acceptable. And out of the 101 commons, only 9% are acceptable. So 18% of the uncommons are acceptable, and 9% of the commons are acceptable to me as cards in this set, based on things like power level, the fact of do they represent the actual intent of the set to be iconic. I mean, the way that they advertised the set was they said that it features beloved Magic cards, and it does have some of those. It has 20 new pieces of artwork, and it certainly does, some of which I really like the new Windfall. It promises power-packed fun drafts. Now, we'll talk about that. It promises cards aimed at Legacy, Modern, and Commander. Now, it delivers on that front because it does have Legacy cards like Mana Drain. It appeals to Commander players and Modern players alike with big fat cards like the Praetors. So it does reach into multiple formats. They do succeed in that regard. And one of the funniest things to me out of all the advertising they had was the thing that said 15 cards in every pack, and you can expect one of the 15 cards in the pack to be a rare or mythic exclamation mark. And that's almost as funny as me not realizing I should really turn the sound off on my phone after the first time it went off. So, now that that's done, we won't have any more random booping during the video, most likely. That's hilarious. Real professional here. This is my analysis. Can't even remember to turn the phone off. So, back to what I was saying. We have the percentage breakdown for all the different categories in terms of what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. You could expect one of every 15 cards in your pack to be a rare or mythic with an exclamation mark, which I thought was adorable. So, is it actually going to offer a power-packed fun draft? I don't believe that it is, most likely, because the uncommons and commons, like I said, they do not have a lot of what I consider to be acceptable cards. So considering that 93% of the cards that comprise a draft are the commons and uncommons, only 7% of a draft are the mythic rares, the regular rares, and the foils as well. So the other 93% is just a bunch of commons and uncommons. And in that situation, then obviously, where does most of the weight lay for a draft? It lay on the shoulder of those cards. And in this case, those cards just, to me, are not going to deliver. So I don't think it's actually going to deliver a power-packed fun draft. Now, there's certain things they've done with this set that I like, where they have taken certain rares and dropped them down by one or two rarity categories. Like certain cards that are reprinted as uncommon instead of rare, or reprinted even as a common instead of rare, where it was merited for the particular card. So there are a bunch of situations where I actually really approve of that. First of all, I don't like the fact that they put a bunch of cards from Theros, Dragons of Tarkir in here that don't feel iconic at all. If they had made a big splash, yes, but it's just a few of these like enchantments that really honestly, to me, like Dragon Tempest and things like that, are not iconic. It's okay that they dropped it down to uncommon. I just don't like that there are a whole lot of these newer cards in there, but I definitely approve of them drifting it from rare down to uncommon. So they did that with a number of cards like that. Bog Brew Witch, which does actually, I think, contribute to a more fun draft environment because you're more likely to be able to pull off the Bog Brew Newt Cauldron combo, right? So that is kind of cool. But there's a lot of junk in the set, like Absent Battle Priest, Absent Falconer, Cephalid Broker, like stuff that doesn't feel iconic in the slightest. That's just shoved in there. And it doesn't feel like it's going to make for a big, exciting draft. It just feels like a hodgepodge of garbage. The majority of the set genuinely doesn't feel iconic. I mean, they went, look, we shoved Hydras and Dragons in, but it feels to me like they intentionally nerfed the set to a degree because they want to go back to the well. This is the second Master set in the same year we're seeing. It's only been 6 months since the third Modern Masters hit the shelves. And you can still pick it up by the pack off the shelf. It's still easy to get. It's not some hoarded kind of thing. Iconic Masters is, I have some concerns. The card quality that they've been coming out with lately, Amonkhet Hour of Devastation, has been really bad. So if they're going to put out a product that they're going to call premium and the card quality is going to be that bad, that makes it basically unrecommendable. Like I cannot tell you to get this product, even for drafts, if the card quality isn't good. So that being said, I'm not going to factor that in any further because it's not something we can weigh in on until we actually have the cards in our hand and have a bunch of data to see how frequent these kind of problems are. So at this point, if it turns out they've improved the card quality, excellent. All the other information here is useful. If they haven't improved the card quality, then basically it's an automatic don't purchase this product. That's what the recommendation becomes. But at the current breakdown, because you have like a 50% chance of getting like a decent rare, or like a little bit higher because you've got all the mythics, so they do factor in. So the odds are roughly 50-50, which for a master set isn't terrible. You're going to get a card that doesn't make you feel bad about what you've just spent. Now, chances are you're almost guaranteed to lose money. These cards, these reprints, are obviously going to push the prices of a lot of cards down. There are very few cards that gain a boost in price when there is a reprint, and that's only when there weren't enough reprints made. Now, Wizards is printing more and more of these master sets because, frankly, they're very greedy in this regard. And this set looks like they pulled stuff back so they could do an Iconic Masters 2 next year. It looks like Iconic Masters 2 will be coming. One thing that I liked was they downgraded Sanguine Blood from a rare to an uncommon. Now, Sanguine Blood was a valuable rare. That was like an maybe $8 to $10 rare. Now that's a $4 rare, now that the reprints have been announced. But even as it being announced as a reprint, it's still holding at $4 for the regular rare. So that's a valuable uncommon, which I like that Wizards have done this. The problem I have is I feel like the reason that they did this is they wanted to intentionally manufacture a certain set amount of value uncommons in the set to make sure that, okay, when you crack a pack, you have a certain amount of chance of getting a value uncommon. If they don't have enough valuable uncommons in the set, then it's not going to help drive sales. So they push Sanguine Bond down, which is fine. It's a great way to add another uncommon to the set that is worth money. But at the same time, they take cards like Distortion Strike, which is a common from before, and had gained in value to being $1 or $2 common. And now Wizards reprints it as an uncommon, and this comes across to me as an attempt to keep the value of the card higher and not actually get the card into the hands of the player. This Distortion Strike is not strong enough that having it a common would make for an unbalanced draft environment, especially when you're saying you are trying to push power-packed fun drafts. Having this card at a lower level would totally make for more power-packed environments. No, instead it's kept in uncommon because that decreases the amount that will be going out into the supply, and as a result, it will maintain the value of the card, and this will count as a value uncommon for the set. So I believe they are using certain practices to ensure that they can basically give you the bare minimum possible. You know how employees working for minimum wage will do the minimum possible to get that money? It's like Wizards isn't trying to offer you real value with this. They're trying to give you the least possible value while still getting you to buy the product and not feel like you're getting a bad deal. Like some of the cards they consider to be worthy of being an uncommon in the set, like Hunting Pack, Angelic Accord, it's genuinely just insulting. Mirror Elk Nightblade. Like, these are terrible, terrible cards. Great Teacher's Decree, just to name a few of these dreadful, dreadful cards that they just shoved in here that don't feel iconic. They don't fit the set. This set has a ton of filler. They're hoping that the Mythics and the Gut Punch rares will get you to keep buying. But the truth is that 93% of the stuff you're opening is going to be absolute garbage. Like the majority of that. 93% of the stuff you're opening is going to be commons and uncommons. And out of that, maybe if you're lucky, about 15% of that will be cards that are even worth keeping for your own personal play. This set is full of a lot of bulk garbage. And so if you're going to be buying it for draft purposes, it's fine. And if you understand what you're walking into, it's fine. But basically, you're just going to lose money opening packs of this. And you lose money opening packs of a lot of things. But with this, there are only a handful of rares and maybe half the mythics that are going to get you your money or more back in this regard. I mean, at a $15 pack, you have to crack an $18 mythic just to get $3 ahead. And that's not even in real money. That's just in perceived magic money. So in terms of this being like a lucrative set to purchase, it's certainly not. In terms of playing a draft, it could be fun. I genuinely don't know. There are, like, I think it's going to be really dependent on the rares and mythics you get. Because the uncommons and commons just seem to be a hodgepodge of whatever Wizards seemed like they felt like they could get away with putting in there. So, overall, in terms of, it's not an automatic don't buy unless the card quality is garbage, but it's also not a get out there and get your hands on it kind of set. It's a, do you have extra money? Do you enjoy gambling? Because there's certainly enough gut punch rares and mythics to make this, like, it's not a terrible gamble. It's not like opening a pack of Hour of Devastation where there are literally like 2 rares that you can break even on, and half the mythics will make you like $1 ahead and the rest is just loss. Like, it's not that level of terrible, but the entry price is definitely steep on this. And remember also that the value of these cards are dependent on how many of them exist and how many people want them. So the more they reprint these, the less valuable they become in terms of your ability to trade them away for other things as well. So the question becomes, do you buy Iconic Masters now, Or do you wait and see if they're going to reprint more of this stuff? They're having such a hard time with finding stuff to reprint that they need to put Kiki Jiki wherever they can. They put them in a bunch of Modern Master sets. They shoved them in here. As long as something has value on the secondary market, Wizards will eye it. The problem is with iconic Masters and all these Masters products is they have a very parasitic nature, because they require that basically a card has to get created in Standard and get all the way to the point of being old enough and worth enough to revisit and bring back for a set like this. But if Wizards is just making garbage quality cards, then nobody's going to be buying them. They're not like, if the game isn't healthy, then these Masters are just milking you for stuff that's going to be worthless. So it's a difficult recommendation. You have to factor everything in, and you have to decide if you want to be gambling on this, because it's a lot of the time, half the time you open a pack, you're not going to be getting something that's considered acceptable. Every second pack, you're going to be like, oh, that didn't feel good. So just bear that in mind. For me, I am not going to be buying boxes of this. I'm going to be tentatively buying packs of this. I'm going to check out other people opening boxes of this, either online or in person, because I know other people won't be able to resist. I have friends who, unfortunately, even no matter how much they get burned and how much I explain to them they shouldn't be buying the boxes, they keep buying. I know my one friend has bought at least 8 boxes of the recent Modern Masters. So I will have access to see this, but for me currently, it's a purchase a couple of packs and see what you feel about the experience. Be aware of what track printing is. Also be aware that when I spoke about track printing, there's another aspect that I may not have made clear, but when Wizards prints things, they print them on gigantic card sheets, and they have all these tracks that they're printing on, but there will be excess cards and excess card spots on the sheet, and sometimes they put filler cards there, but other times they literally just print extras, like on foil sheets. With the first Modern Masters, they would fill the rest of the foil sheet with rusted relics. So there would be like an however skewed probability to begin with, because they have like whatever probability they change you get of each getting each foil. But on top of that, on each foil sheet, it came with an extra like 23 copies of foil rusted relic. So they literally printed like dozens and dozens of extra copies of the worst foil in the set. And it was brought to attention not only by people being able to get full sheets of it, full uncut sheets so you could see it, but on top of that, there were people who literally cracked boxes where all the foils were just rusted relics in the entire box. So bear in mind that when you're opening these boxes, you do not have an equal chance of getting all rares. You do not have an equal chance of getting all mythics. And in all likelihood, Wizards has stacked the deck very heavily against you in terms of the foils to ensure that you will crack a lot of garbage foils, because the big money nature of the foils in this set, I should say, make them more lottery-ish, and it's in Wizards' best incentive to ensure you keep cracking packs. If you crack too many good foils, you'll stop, and it'll push the value of the set overall down. So they have every incentive to screw with the rarities. Like I said before, if you don't know what track rarity is, then take a look at my video about the secret rarities, because Wizards genuinely does this. It is documented. There is proof of it, and I've seen it. I've seen it in action through opening boxes with actual software on hand that would show you the tracks that they were using and could predict accurately, based on Wizards' own tracks, what was left in each pack. So I've seen firsthand. I know for a fact they do this. You just need to keep that in mind. So if you want to get boxes, that's on you. My advice is just pick up a couple of packs to start with and go from there. So, my friends, this has been the Iconic Masters product evaluation. Thank you very much for checking it out, and I will talk to you next time.
Together we are the sixth color of magic. Good night.